What's up, everybody, and welcome to the iReach podcast. I'm your host, Paul Robinson, founder and CEO of ConstructReach, a national consultancy and initiative that aims to diversify the construction, design, and innovation industries and empower a younger generation. We are here merging education, industry, and culture with a variety of featured guests that you do not want to miss. So let's go. iReach. What is up, everybody? We are back. Yes, we're back. Rocking off season 2, man. We are in it now. We've got another guest that's on today, and that is William Leiter from C&H Landscape. So, Will, how you doing, man? Thanks for being on. Glad you're on, and I'm super excited about this conversation. What's up?
Paul, thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to advance your conversation.
Yeah. Cool. So, Will, I mean, we've got a chance to wrap just a little bit, man, before the segment here. And, you know, what we always like to do, because there's so many different unique stories. I think every guest that we have on, they have their own unique story about how they got into their particular careers, how they got into this industry. And I'm sure, you know, you've got your own story and your own journey as well. Let's start there. Let's start with, how did you get into this industry? And yeah, we'll leave it there, man. That's open ended. I think that'll provide some good meat right there for us to get into as you kind of share some of the high points, man, of your story and your journey.
In high school, I took drafting and vocational classes, and when I graduated, I went straight into the field. I started an entry-level drafting position with a structural engineering company in Atlanta, drawing bridges. And for 2 years or so, I worked with different companies as an entry-level drafter. And then I actually did some freelance drafting, architectural and some other mechanical components. As a matter of fact, a company in Atlanta, Carrera Shocks, I did the drawings for one of their product catalogs. And from there, I went into the Army because I wanted to do that work, but I wanted to do it. I was freelancing it, but I wanted to do it on a bigger level. So I thought, okay, let me get some college behind me. I'll go into the Army for a few years, get the college fund, come out. Yeah, I did the Army part. I never did the college part. When I did get out, the field had gone automated, so I had to go to a technical school to get the computer-aided drafting side of it. And I went back into the field. I worked for Georgia Power and traveled throughout Georgia, working with their district offices. And I really wanted to be a mechanical engineer and work with robotics. And I never got to that part, but I ended up moving to Philadelphia, and I worked in all of the construction and engineering trades, from MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, as a drafter, working for airports, working for hospitals. And then I think the biggest transition was being hired as a civil and landscape designer. And that turned me from focusing inside of buildings, working inside of buildings, and focusing inside of buildings, to now I'm focusing outside. And that appealed to me. When the economy turned down in 2008, I knew that I wanted to do more. I wanted my work to have more of an environmental focus. And I also knew that I wanted to get from behind the desk, from behind the computer, and do more work outside. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I was hired by a nonprofit agency here in Philadelphia that does some environmental type work. And I was a manager of contractors, if you will, a project manager. And that work, really got me into the construction in the field work, not just the design of that work, but more in the field work. But it also put me in touch with, I would say, a segment of the industry that's kind of off to the side, right? And that's small businesses, minority-owned businesses. I'll say, and more people of color. So I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
Before, up to this point, in all of my work, I was always the only Black person. If not in the building, if not on the floor, definitely on the team, if not in the company. And so in working with this new employer, my boss was Black, right? So that was a first. And this is like 22 years in my career. So now working with people who look like me, then I could begin to see, and again, these are more laborers, right? Construction laborers, working, on the job sites and seeing what their work environment was like versus my work environment. Working in offices, air conditioning, coffee room, whatever, you know what I mean? Like the creature comforts that we get every day. And it was actually in that environment and that with that employer that I was given an opportunity to train ex-offenders, men and women coming home from prison, or had been out of prison for a while. So that project that I worked on, we hired maybe 18 to 20 private contractors. Every year, those contractors get a contract, and that work starts at a certain period of time. And so every year, they're hiring, right, to fill their labor pool and get those contracts to start their work. So I was asked to develop a curriculum to train men and women coming from prison for these jobs. And since we were I was the quality control, component in that project, I knew what to train to. And so I developed that curriculum, and for 2 seasons, I trained men and women coming into that program for jobs with these contractors. So that was kind of the second step in my career. Now I work CNH as one of those contractors. The owner really championed that same mission, right? It's not hard at all to see a landscape company that may have somebody on staff that, has a record. And the work does not really have a very high bar for entry, but good work does. And that's what I was providing, for those trainees. And when I left, that last employer, I was hired by CNH, and now I get to work with some of the men that I train, and to help the company really do excellent work in the field.
Wow.
So here I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is great, Will. And that's why I always start off with that question, because, you don't know somebody's story, you don't know somebody's journey until you ask. And, for us, here on the podcast, we are always like surprised at the various routes that people take to come into this industry. And so when you think about starting from drafting, and then the Army, and then just the different routes that you take, and teaching and things of that nature. It's just another example that, hey, there is no cookie cutter way. Especially as we try to make this industry more visible to a younger demographic, and having that representation, because it's the most diverse demographic that we've ever had within our country. And so it's trying to showcase people that they can identify with, that have a variety of different ways that they've entered into this industry, to let them know, hey, there's no cookie cutter way. Regardless of where you are, like, there's different routes and different avenues, and life can take you in different ways, but it doesn't mean that this can't be where you end up, right? And so being able to showcase that for people is really important for us, and you just exemplified that with your journey. Now you mentioned something that I wanna put a pin in, and I wanna unpack a little bit, because I think there's a lot there, because we also have employers that listen to this, or people that are within the industry that are trying to understand, as things begin to shift, and work life and personal life, or it's not really compartmentalized anymore like it used to be, and how there's so many things that are happening within society at large that bleed right into the work environment, because we're people. So we're we're out of society, and then we come for our jobs, we come into our job environment, and those lines are becoming blurred now. And so when you think about just being the only African American, being the only black man, like in some of those environments that you were in, talk to me a little bit about that experience, how that was, but then also just what got you to where you are, to today. Because I think some people, when they struggle, they stop, you know, and I wanna unpack that, because I think that can help somebody, just by being able to hear what that experience was like for you.
So the entry was pretty easy, right? I'm coming out of high school. I'd taken drafting in high school, but I also kind of had a little bit of a foot in. My father was a machinist, and being a drafter, I would at times visit him at his job, visit him. He would take me to his job, and I would see a drawing that I could read. I understood what the end product was, and moreover, it's something that I could draw, right? And so that turned into a job with him at one of his employers. So I kind of had a little bit of a ease into the industry, and once I, got into that work and saw, hey, I could do this. It was hard for me to find a place that I could not do the work. And that's really how I ended up doing freelance drafting. And, you do a good job, the word gets out. And the irony is that as a black man in Atlanta at that time, the places that were reaching out to me for work. And I was tickled by that. But again, it kind of, lit a fire that, ooh, I could do something with this. And maybe if I added a little bit more education to what I have, I could do it at a larger scale, and it could be really sustainable. And so that was the distraction of the Army for a few years. When I came out, the experience from, pre-military, but then some of what I got out of the military really became valuable in the workplace. I could visualize, I could follow protocol, right? I could learn, but I could also put down a mean drawing. And, that's what the value was, right? Engineers don't draft. They don't develop the construction documents. And so that, that strength was something that really propelled me. I became a dad not long after coming out of the Army. And I was a single dad, and having a child will, light a different fire, right? And so that is what brought me back to Philadelphia. And I just had to make it. There was no complaining, there was no dragging your feet. I had to make it. And, evidently I had what it took to get in the door, right? Everybody needs the talent, but you always have to show and prove. And in that day, I was educated in the school of English and Iranian and French and German engineers and designers, and they didn't hold anything back. There was prejudice and racism in those spaces, and again, that I had to separate that from what I had to provide for my son. So it didn't matter. I got in there. I had what it took to be there. I had to show them that I had what it took to stay there and to be respected. And then, of course, to obtain my value. So
Yeah.
here I am. I evidently something worked out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
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 well, no, that's good. I mean, we typically ask, in season 2 here, we've started to ask, these questions from the community. We call it community insights, where we get a chance to kind of hear conversations that are happening within the ConstructReach social network, within the ConstructReach community, if you will. We call it our CRC. Of course, you can download the app at any time, any point on Android or iPhone, but we have those questions in there, and you just answered that question, because the question that, I was going to bring to the table was, what's being your source of motivation throughout your career? And when you think about, having children, when you think about that, you begin to have an internal drive, an internal source of motivation that allows for you to overcome some hard circumstances, man. Just to be quite frank, some hard situations to be in, some dark moments, and when you are living for somebody else, working for somebody else, providing for somebody else, where something is larger than you, I think you begin to discover like how much you can overcome, and not to say that it's okay to have to go through that. I mean, first and foremost, that's why we do this podcast, man, is to really showcase the importance of diversity, to speak about that, and how we can make this industry better. But I mean, you got a chance to touch on some things, man, that are really significant, to being able to continue to overcome despite, what's been presented to you. And so thank you for sharing that. My follow-up question to that would be, what would you like to see this industry do more of? And it can be in terms of workforce development.
right.
It can be in terms of diversity. It can be in terms of, getting younger, right? How do we engage a younger demographic? Like you said, you got introduced at a very young age, came straight out of high school. So it can be anything. But what does this
Yeah.
industry need to do to become better?
I'll put it this way: the failings are so broad and reach so deeply that it's challenging to pull out, one area. I'm OSHA 30 qualified, certified rather, and to see the complacency that permeates the industry from every level, and to see people, moreover people of color, working hard for their families, right, for their mission, and putting themselves at jeopardy every day, and in just small ways, I mean, and it's something that I teach. It's something that I coach all the time. Safety, just wearing eye protection, wearing hearing protection, the complacency, that people take to do the work or have in doing their work without protecting themselves. I teach about the exit strategy from whatever the work you're doing. What is your exit strategy? What's your quality of life going to be at that point? During the Black Lives Matter movement, I teach everyone that Black and brown lives matter. So does Black and brown quality of life. If you can't hear your kids, your grandkids, then, what are you missing out on? So let's just talk about safety, right? That's a small thing. That's a small segment of the answer there. What else would I like to see? Yes, I would like to see more. I would like to see a lot of training opened up. Like the fact that I could go to, and this was in Atlanta, I went to 3 different schools. Every school I went to had a vocational program. I could choose. I chose drafting. It worked for me. Um, Apprenticeships. I take mentoring and coaching very. It's very important to me to give back, to do that, and to be in those spaces where I can show men and women. I don't care what their age is, but men and women, I don't care what their color is, that you can do this at a high level. When you ask about changing this industry, so now I'm in the landscape maintenance, installation, industry, to see work being done, to see workers doing work, not understanding why they're doing what they do. So it leads to poor practice. It leads to poor practice throughout the industry. So now I'm an arborist. I was certified a year or so ago. I've been doing arboriculture work for maybe 11 years or so. And to see these
And what is that?
practices,
Explain that again. And what is a
arboriculture. I'm an
Mhm.
arborist. So I work with trees. I
Yeah.
specialize in tree healthcare,
Hmm.
tree planting, um, design with trees, eh, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And arboriculture is, that work.
Okay.
So, coming from civil and landscape design, I used to design trees, right? You pick it out, you see what the performance is on it, what this, how big will it grow, how wide will it grow, whatever, what kind of, water it needs, or sun exposure it needs. And then you just put it there on a drawing, right? It looks good. And now I'm on the outside of that. I'm getting these drawings from landscape architects for construction, for
Hmm.
installation projects.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the trees that they have these nice, cute symbols on the drawing. But where it's placed, I know that they have no clue what that tree is going to do. We refer to it as genetic potential, right? At its most, what this tree can be. And those symbols and that tree that you're designing to be in that spot, they don't work, right? So it starts from that level. That's from the project development level with engineers, with architects, right? And to see dumb work being done at that level, right? Now we get the contractors, right? My company, to install that, and to see men and women doing this work, trees planted everywhere, and just poor practices, mulch being applied. Like, people don't know why we use mulch. It's not what it is, it's what it does. Mulch can be, a number of different materials, but to see how it's used shows that they don't know what it's supposed to do. And, it's a racket. They just dump as much as they can because they charge by the cubic yard. What would I like to see change in this industry? There's room for a lot of change.
Yeah. It sure is.
Um, yeah. And so I just do the most that I can, wherever I can. And teaching is a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good, man. I could tell you are definitely a teacher at heart. Like know your why, not just perform something, not just do something, but understand why you do it. And I think that makes you more effective because situations vary, context varies. And so if you just do, but never understand the why, then you may miss certain questions to ask. You may do in an environment where you shouldn't be doing, where you should be done differently or using something differently. And so, now thank you for sharing regarding that. And I love the way you led into that question because I think it is very true. The failings are so broad and they do run deep, and it's really hard to grab at something because it's a systematic issue that we have, and systematic systems are not just one thing. They are very multifaceted, and also just about the quality of life, as well. There's just so many different aspects to life, and so when you think about just where we are from an industry standpoint, yes, we do need a lot of things to be addressed. We do need, to see advancement. We do need, you know, to rectify a lot of the wrongs and just begin to understand, like, how do we first own what's been done and own how things are, and then really work together, for a better future, right? And so and education is huge. Education is key, and I think you got a chance to hit on some very important things, man. Um, what would you say? Being a black man within this industry, and you've been able to overcome a lot, and you've been successful in it. Um, what do you think other young people should know about this industry, of why they should pursue it, and maybe what they don't know. So what would you let them know? Like what's in this industry that has kept you within this industry or has allowed you to thrive, that maybe a younger demographic or a younger person wouldn't really see.
I think that I'm an artist at heart, and I thought that I connected with that when I was drafting at the drafting table, right? And then on the computer screen. But, one of the things that kind of drove me away from that field, that part of my work, was to see ingenuity being priced out of the product. When the economy was struggling back in 2008, some of the projects that I worked on began to get dumbed down by the client, right? And so in the end, like I said, I'm working at a desk in a building, but my mind was outside in these spaces that I'm designing. And to see that dumbing down of the product, it really began to, squash the artist in me. That ingenuity is what, that's what you pay for in engineering, right? You want the solution, but you want it to be innovative. You want it to be, compelling, right? For, your audience, those pass by, those who use it, whatever. And so that artist in me was always thirsty for that part for me. It's like, yeah, I'm working, but if I'm being creative, if my mouth is watering to go in the morning, because I got a new solution for this, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
you can't wait to get there. And I think that there's an aspect of work that we don't look for that is a salve to us. So we all know, we all in the horticultural world, we know of the holistic, healing that is possible in that work, right? Whether you're walking through a garden, whether you are, doing the actual planting, even designing, right? And so that's what I get out of my work. And I try to be very free with expressing that when I'm working. I may be weeding a garden at the art museum, and I know how beautiful it's going to be when I'm done. I'm smiling. I might be listening to music. People are walking by. I'm smiling. I'm greeting them, right? I've watched for years in so many different places, black and brown people doing that work, not looking up, when you see their faces, they're not happy. You know what I mean? They don't engage anyone, right? Whether there's a language barrier or whatever, but you don't need to say anything to exude joy in your work, right? And I think that that's a big part of, the ambassadoring that I get to do when I'm doing my work. So again, what I enjoy in it is being able to show others that you can do this work, you can change a space, it can heal other people, you can show other people how gratifying this work is to you, right? If you're looking to get that out of it for yourself, you can't hold it back, or, at least I don't think I can.
Oh man, that is well said, Will. I appreciate that, man. Listen, it has been a pleasure having you on. Gotta have you back, man. I'm sure there's a lot more that we can discuss. But my
Uh,
brother, it has been a pleasure, man. Thank you for joining the iReach podcast.
Thank you for having me. I hope I brought something to your platform.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning into our show. Remember, like, share, subscribe to the podcast, and join the movement as we reach to build a better future that we can all be proud of.